Can you imagine going to a Luke Bryan concert live performance,
And
featuring
the song is out of this world.
so good. Out of my world, I'm so fucking far away from that bullshit, and I feel like I'm on the other side of the country. I am. It's so nice.
Well, to tie
Well,
things there neatly in a bow, I believe you saw our featured artist this week in a live setting, didn't you, Travis?
Oh my God, yes. It's one of the last concerts I went to before everything hit. I saw Destroyer. That was the last show I saw with Dan
Ah,
Bahar. That was the last show I saw before COVID hit, and it was right before COVID hit, so I thought I was gonna die like the whole show.
he
Uh,
was album, I assume, right?
yeah, so, the new album, which I really like. Um, so that was great. But Carly was like the second last show. I don't go out to a lot of shows now. Being a father and all, it's like I don't have the extra money. When I do get to go, I do shit like that. Major artists I really love, and I spent a good amount of coin to go to that show. It was GA, so I was like right at the front rail and everything. I was like not at the very front, but I was like close. I was a really good spot, and wonderful vibe. Like Carly fans are the fucking best. They're so nice, and they're so passionate. Everybody there knew every song, which does not happen a lot. Especially if you go to indie shows like Destroyer, for instance, where most people just fucking stand around and look uncomfortable,
He
except for
do,
like two songs.
did he do anything off kaput?
He did a lot of Kaput. He did Pour in Love. He did Chinatown. He did Savage Night at the Opera, and
Nice.
title track. It was great. Oh my God. And I actually did have a couple of people around me who were having fun. Those are rare at indie shows. Normally they're very much into like their shoes and looking
Yeah, I'm trying.
uncomfortable.
I'm trying to think of indie shows, like real indie pop shows I've seen. I was supposed to see Wolf Parade, but that fell through. I was supposed to see a free Wolf Parade show in Williamsburg, and I imagine that would have been a lot of people really into themselves and their shoes. Although that would have been when they were touring at Mount Zoomer, which I wasn't really into. So, um, yeah, I'd go more into the Carly show, actually. I wanted to ask more about Destroyer, but I'll mainly just be gushing about how much I love Kaput because that's like one of my favorite albums. And I guess I'm a little curious as to how much of it's a live band experience and how much of it's just Dan. Before you talk about Carly,
Oh, it's a full live band. See, like, okay, if you didn't like Poison Season that much, for example, I thought the Poison Season tracks were much, much more lively because they had like I think they had an eight-piece band. And I'm talking brass, a couple guitar players, a keyboard player, uh, uh, at least one or two percussionists. And then Dan didn't really play a lot. He did a lot of mugging. And then occasionally he'd pick something up, like an acoustic guitar or whatever. So it was a full band. And Destroyer does play as a solo act too sometimes, which I would think would probably focus more on the earlier stuff. But as far as like the last few albums are concerned, it's really nice because I didn't like Ken very much, but even those songs sounded a lot more alive and punchy with that going on. So to me, totally worth the money. I'm glad I went, despite risking my life or whatever. Uh, it was great. And with Carly, she had a live band too, which probably isn't a big surprise. I don't know what
well, I
people would think.
saw a video of her at Pitchfork doing "Run Away with Me," and she had a live band for that, which
yeah.
I wasn't too surprised about because there's a lot of instrumentation in her music. I mean, more so in the dedicated side B era, but even on Emotion, there's stuff that you can tell. Like, the obvious one's the saxophone on "Run Away with Me," but there's stuff that you can tell. It's not just all synthesizers and computers.
The choreography is on point. She has several dancers, and she's got some background singers, and it's the full show. I mean, it's really exciting. It's a great show. Very tight. I think I saw this first or second to last show of the tour, or at least of that section of the tour, because it was really tight by then. And at the beginning of the tour, Real Love was not part of the set list, and by the time I went, she was playing Real Love, which was really great. That was a later edition, and it's so good. It's very near the end of the show. Some of the big songs for her is "Party for One" was fucking huge live. That had such a huge reaction. It's everyone's favorite. It was great. Which I'd kind of gotten that like bubbling up online, that I'd gotten a sense that song with a certain corner of her fan base was a huge song, and then the rest of us were like, it's fine, you know. But huge live banger. Cut to the Feeling might have been the biggest song of the whole night. Even bigger than Call Me Maybe, which I think people are bored with.
What was the encore?
Yeah.
Call Me Maybe?
What'd you say?
What was the encore? Was it Call Me Maybe?
No, Call Me Maybe was early in the show.
What was the encore then?
Let me check. It was, I think the end of the set was Party for One. I think it was. It was like right at the end, and then Real Love was right at the end, which was very appropriate. I'm trying to find the set. The encore was Real Love, Let's Get Lost, and Cut to the Feeling.
Yeah, Cut to the Feeling seems like an encore song because it has that very like euphoric, like big time, big swell of a chorus where like everybody can sing along.
She played for sure. Oh my god, I forgot about that. And the feature from Feels Right, I think, was touring with her. So he is on that. He is on that song. So
Right.
so he actually does his part.
I always wondered how like artists, like especially pop artists, like handle that when they have like features. I mean, well, actually, really rappers, you would think, but
They do their verse. They do their verse and then leave.
Because I know I watched the Charlie XCX Pitchfork set a couple of times last year, and when she did Out of My Head, she did Tovlo's part, and then when she did what is it, Lip Gloss with Cupcake came on stage and did her part.
Roots in 2008, they did Criminal off Rising Down, and Black Thought did Saigon's part and sounded way better than Saigon.
Reminds me of when Saigon was a character in Entourage. They were trying to make Saigon a thing. Like,
really not terrible. And that verse on the Roots album is actually really good, but it's like, yeah, he was not. I did not remember he was a character on Entourage because I never had a period where I thought Entourage was charming. I always thought it was Sex and the City for men. There was one.
I watched it when I was like, in early high school. So I was like, I remember thinking it was like it was entertaining. I don't remember a lot of the show now, but outside of the problematic parts, which was a lot of it.
I would say that I actually insulted it by saying it was Sex and the City for men because Sex and the City probably had a higher quality ratio than Entourage. And I mainly thought Entourage's theme music was really annoying. I couldn't get past that because it would always be on after stuff I was watching on HBO that I actually enjoyed.
Right.
I will say I watched more Ballers than is probably good for me for a show that had like 3 plot lines that it rehashed over and over. And that's the same people who made Entourage. So
right.
I feel like this is a little off topic. The last show I went to before all this went down was way before all this went down. It was last summer. And unfortunately, it was Dave Matthews Band because my wife wanted to see Dave Matthews Band. I am not a huge fan of theirs. I don't have much to say about the show. It's not nearly as cool as seeing Destroyer or Carly. It was not a bad show. I've seen them 3 times now. The first time was actually, these were all because my wife and our family really loved them. One of the things when we were coming up with the idea for this show is we were going to talk about things we didn't like about the live music experience, and these concerts do provide a lot of evidence of that. The sort of people you do not want to be around at a live concert are these type of fans for a large part. A lot of just fucking horrible bros, like rich, just assholes, and security, and just the wrong kind of vibes, and people who. This last concert, actually, I mean, they always play big stadiums, which are not my favorite avenues to see a concert. I mean, Optimal is going to talk about the one show he's seen.
The one big one. The one. I mean, I've seen college bands and shit like that, obviously, but I haven't I could have seen. All right, so at one point, Waka Flocka did come to my college town. I did not see it. I was under 21. It was 21 and older at the time because it was at some club.
But feels very strongly about underage drinking. So
yeah. I am the police, I guess. No,
it's cop.
I guess I am. Well, I mean, come on. Could you imagine me with a fake ID trying to get anywhere? Like, if you've ever, if you've seen me, if you've ever seen me in real life, I mean, I'm like 5'6" and a half. I'm like a short white kid who, I mean, I don't pass for my age that I am now, which is 20.
He's like, oh yeah, okay, Miguel Sanchez, move along,
It's like the scene in Superbad when they're trying to get fake IDs, and that would just be like when I was like 20, I looked like I was 17 max. So
You just need
it,
to know the right places to go into, and they'll be like, right this way, Mr. Shapiro.
exactly. Ben Shapiro looks a lot more Jewish than I am, but regardless, I'll have that win on him.
Well,
No,
my point was that you saw a show in a big. I want to see what your experience was compared to mine, because like one of my least favorite places to see shows is in big arenas, and I know where you saw your show was in a big arena, right?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was about like about 18,000 people.
And it's just like the whole fucking like the space between you and the artist, the being crowded with so many people. And we were in a row, and we ended up with these fucking people who like two girls? It was two girls who basically stubbed down and were like stealing the empty seats next to us. And they kept dipping in and out, and I think they tried to sneak more of their friends in. It was very annoying, and it kind of distracted from the concert experience. The shows before that I saw were a bunch of Fish shows, which I won't bore everybody with the details of. I really, really enjoyed
Because you can check out your reviews, because you do Fish reviews quite prolifically.
Quite prolifically. I review live. I think I've reviewed some of these shows, so you're welcome to go to my RYM page where I go into detail that will probably be irrelevant to most of you unless you're into the band. But I will say it is a great experience. If I would recommend going if you ever have the opportunity, because it's not like a lot of the cliches that you've heard. There are annoying people and aspects of the scene, but I think it's overall much more positive than something like a Dave Matthews show. Like there's a scene outside the show that you don't get at Dave, where it's just frat boys in minivans drinking light beer, and the music's better. But I won't go into too much detail about that. The show I saw before the Fish shows was Milo, which is
cool.
Definitely something to talk about for the show because of what the kind of show that we do. Primarily talking about hip hop. The fact that hip hop like never comes to where I live. I live in Lancaster now. I used to live in Philly, where obviously I had a lot more exposure to like every kind of music, but especially hip hop. And we don't really have very many live music venues around here. Shout out to the Chameleon Club, which has had some interesting acts play there. Not so much lately. They're like the one small club. This was not there. This was actually at a arts collective that makes sense for Milo. I have no idea how they booked him. It was at the very end of his tour. It was like 2 weeks after his tour was over. The opening acts were like local college kids, a slam poet. Then he did a set of Scallops Hotel, which was interesting. Like he didn't really do any Scallop songs. He just kind of fucked around on his sampler and freestyled off the top of his head and did ad libs. And seemed just like he was kind of drunk or stoned or whatever. It was interesting, but it was not like if you were familiar with the Scallops albums and expecting to hear off of those, you might be disappointed. But his actual rap set was fucking phenomenal. He did most of Who Told You to Think, and he had incredible energy. It was like a artist loft with like 60 people. I was front row. It was really cool experience. Unfortunately, he didn't have like any merch because his tour was like over at this point. But I did get a cassette that I bought for $10. It was a purple cassette that his manager sold me that he said, we don't even know what's on this. And it's unlabeled. I still haven't opened it yet because I don't have a cassette deck. I have several cassettes that I bought off Bandcamp and shit that I've just never been able to play. I still don't know what's on this cassette, and one day I'll hopefully be able to play it. I would have had a chance to talk with him. He said he wanted to. I talked with the manager a little bit, but he was busy talking to some fucking local artist chicks or whatever. I didn't want to bother him, and I kind of feel a certain way about actually meeting the artist that I really like, so I just chickened out and left. But that was a really cool experience. It's probably the closest I've been. Fairly closest I've been to any artist at any show. Like I was really like there was, like I said, it was like almost like an apartment space. It was almost like an apartment show. He didn't do much of his other stuff though, like for whatever reason.
I mean, that's pretty cool that you got like a real intimate experience like that, which lends itself to your point of like a smaller venue, a more enclosed venue being a better experience for seeing a show than some like big arena space where you're pretty far away from the action most of the time.
And as far as the crowd went, it was an interesting mix of people because, again, I don't know how this show got booked. It was, I guess, somebody who ran the collective. It was ran by like an art collective. I don't even know if it's still active. I wish I knew the name of it. I wish I remember where I kept the ticket stub so I could look it up. Was a fan of his and just got in contact with them. But like it was a mix of like people. the crowd was about 50% people who knew the openers and like 50% people who just heard there was a, like 25% people who heard there was a show and 25% people like me who knew it was Milo and wanted to come see Milo. Like, so there were like 5 people who actually knew the songs, but there was a good energy overall. Like when he had, like during the Scallop set, people were still milling around, drinking. It was like BYOB. They didn't really care what you brought in or whatever, like going in and out on smoke breaks. But when Milo performed, the crowd was like fully invested. Even if they didn't know the music, he was a good enough performer that, and it was like a small enough space that he really commanded the crowd, which is something that I think is not really, he was more aggressive than you would expect, especially after the Scallop set where he seemed kind of out of it. It had me a little worried that he was going to like, I don't know, like be sloppy during the set, especially once I heard that it was like after his tour, that this was kind of a one-off show. It was like maybe he was visiting friends and he just did something to make some quick money. Like I still would have been cool to see Milo. I wouldn't have been mad at it. It was like also $10. Like what else was I going to spend that $10 on a Sunday night? So another thing that I wanted to bring up about this show, I want to say maybe the only concert I've ever went to by myself.
Really?
Yeah, I'm trying to think because normally I think of going to concerts as a communal experience. Now, most of the time I go with my wife. And even when I was in Philly, that's not true. I'm sure there were shows I went to when I was in Philly that I went to by myself. I just went to tons of shows when I was in Philly. I went to shows all the time. But one of the very few that I went to by myself because I think of it as more of a communal experience.
I just like to meet people, I guess. So it doesn't like bother me. Like, I don't know. I'm good at mixing, so it doesn't usually, it's not like a problem. I don't know. It wasn't always like that, though.
Now that I think about it, there was a period when I lived in Philly, I would just go to shows on weekends, and I wouldn't mind. And I would just, like, it is, like, when I say communal experience, it is. So, yeah, I would, like, but I don't think that I so much anymore, I guess, since I got married and moved. I guess since I'm not doing it so often, I think it feels, like, more awkward to me. Although it was fine at the show. Like, I totally met with people, talked with, like, the 5 other people that actually knew who Milo was, were actually excited that he was playing here and completely confused as to why. So what was your first I wanted to talk, well, actually, you know what, we'll let Optimal talk about his show because it's a big deal, and then we'll talk about our first concerts, I think would be another good thing to talk about.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
So Optimal, floor is yours.
Well, I mean, I only, like the guy said, I only really have like one ace in the hole, but it's pretty good, and I happened to see Kanye during the St. Pablo tour. This was in September of 2016. It was in my first month that I was at college, actually. So pretty crazy experience. I kind of booked the tickets ahead of time, not knowing if I would have anyone to go with. Thankfully, I ended up going with my roommate, one of my roommates at the time, because I had a few in my freshman year. And it was a crazy show. At my school, there was a 3-year run where when I was a freshman at Penn State, we had Kanye come. The sophomore, The Weeknd came, and then when I was a junior, Travis Scott came. So it was a 3-year run of pretty big time artists coming to school. I ended up only seeing Kanye. I was asleep, I think, when the Travis Scott tickets dropped or something like that. Yeah, it was like 7 a.m. It was some early time. All my friends went to Travis Scott. Damn near everybody I knew went to Travis.
What tour was it for The Weeknd?
The Weeknd? Well, that would have been 2017. Was that Starboy? It was probably
Starboy.
It was like a year after Starboy came out, so he might have been finishing up that tour.
I saw Weeknd only once, but I saw him at Lollapalooza after a terrible rainstorm. So everybody left, right?
Yeah.
We had to come back, and the whole place was covered in mud. And this was the same tour as Trilogy. This is before Trilogy. So really all he was doing was just like the first few projects. And it was like really opened up. That was fucking awesome. I have not seen him since, but I would like to because outdoors during the day is not a good time to see The Weeknd. But still, that's a great story. I really enjoyed that show. And he only had like House of Balloons and Thursday.
I was gonna say, he's got like 15 songs at that point. Like he didn't have, those are short projects. Yeah, that's interesting because during the daytime, the Weeknd does not make daytime music for the most part. So that's.
No. I still love The Weeknd. I still do. I've always liked him. I like his pop stuff. I like his old stuff. I still think he's great. So
you will not. You're not going to get any. I'm definitely a big Weeknd guy. I mean, House of Balloons. Probably one of my favorite. Yeah, definitely one of my favorite mixtapes ever. And the whole trilogy, and I think whatchamacallit, his recent album, which I'm forgetting the name of for whatever reason, After Hours.
After Hours.
After Hours, probably his second best. My
I'd
second.
agree with that.
Yeah.
I'm not slopped of House of Balloons. I'm not super well versed in him. I used to really not be able to stand him when I felt like he showed up on every rap album and hijacked every song that he was on. And I never really forgave him for. I'm pretty sure he ghost wrote most of Take Care at this point.
Probably.
Yeah, he did. He gave those songs straight up. So.
But I don't hate him anymore. I admit he makes good music. I just find him mostly kind of boring. But that Slim K version of House of Balloons is really good, and I probably would like any Chop Not Slop or Chop and Screwed versions of his music. It's kind of the same thing as Travis Scott for me, although I think he more individually contributes to his music than Travis does. I mean, I think Travis does more than he used to in the past, but I'm not.
Travis definitely. Yeah, I mean, well, I think it makes sense because Travis did come to my school, but Travis is more of like definitely has more of that curator vibe when it comes to the whole like, I'm gonna do the Kanye thing where I have a million people in my studio and it's X, Y, and Z. Like this person does a little bit of that, this person does that, et cetera, et cetera. I would assume. I mean, I would assume he has a lot of creative control. Travis does, but maybe not when it comes to like. Clearly not when it comes to production or whatever if you look at the credits, but I mean
Travis Scott albums feel like Travis Scott albums. That's the only thing I'll say. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a Travis Scott guy, so I'm not gonna. I mean, a lot of his features I think leave stuff to be desired, but I think when it comes to his own work, I think he's been pretty good.
His feature on Justin Bieber's album from this year is a travesty. It's one of the worst features I've ever heard in my life. He literally just walked in, mumbled, and left the room. And got paid.
And they're like, "Hey, what's the check?" It's like it's the same thing that there's a list on RYM where it's how many albums has Gunna been on, and it's incredible. This dude features like one album a week, damn near. Like it doesn't have to be hip hop. You look at some of the pop releases this year, you're like, wait, what? They had Gunna on that album? Like what? And he'll just walk in, he'll say some stuff about like Drip, YSL, and he's out, and boom, there's your check. I'm like. Shout out to that man.
All right, throws me back to the Lil Wayne days when he was doing 3 features a week. He was on every album that came out in 2008.
Yeah, seriously, and even later. Like that's the work ethic on some of these guys is crazy. Or just let me rephrase that: the wanting to get paid.
The hustle.
It's saying that Lil Wayne was so prolific during that period, considering that that codeine is a drug that's supposed to slow you down.
Yeah, it like fucks up your health and everything, makes you gain weight, like slows you down.
Gucci and Screw for that matter. Like
MC.
I mean, Lil Yachty talked about that recently. I don't think he does that, but he talked about how like the rapper diet like makes you fat because he had talked about putting on a lot of weight since he blew up. This is like a year or two ago. I saw an interview with him where he was talking about like just your diet is so shit like when you're a rapper.
I think that Wayne's still Lil because he's talked about in interviews about how all he eats is candy and he is on like all those fucking drugs in the world. So
Party Next Door is so fat. He's so fucking fat. And I remember when he came up, he was not that fat. And he looks like he's aged like 20 years. And
he's also aged because his music takes forever to drop because it's either upstaged by The Weeknd or it becomes a Drake beat.
Yeah, the OVO sweatshops, he's working hard.
He's working hard, or just not working at all because apparently he hasn't done much in the last few years. Besides,
I think he's depressed. I feel like I heard that he's depressed and he's been going through some stuff right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's been eating a lot, to be honest, based on what I know about his situation. I'm glad he finally put something out, although I haven't heard Party Mobile yet. I heard it sucked.
It wasn't great. It had like 1 or 2 songs that were fine, but the rest of it just felt like retreads of like PND 1 was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was.
There were some good songs on that, but anyhow.
I think that we really missed out on there not being a surgical summer with more Pusha T diss songs. Instead, in addition to hearing about how OVO 40 hunched over like he 80, we also could have heard diss bars about how Party Next Door is fat.
Your man's fat.
Well, I mean,
Drop the beat.
you know, there's been like a conspiracy at the weekend and him have like beef, even though I don't think it's real. But I mean, the weekend dissing Party Next Door would be very funny because it's just like
it would, yeah.
R&B beef, let's go.
I mean,
Chris Brown needs to punch someone out, or something. It's been too long.
Oh my God.
Chris Brown needs to lose every beef he's been in. I was trying to think what was the last R&B beef there was. Chris Brown and Frank Ocean, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Parking spot.
I mean, Frank
in a parking lot, yeah.
Frank took a short-term L, but a long-term W. So.
I mean, he gave us the Sunday verse, which is one of the best moments of Frank's career.
It is.
Right.
It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that's Frank always takes W's at this rate, but
So back to your.
Yeah, Frank was on Life of Pablo, so it works. Yeah. It worked out for 20 seconds.
He got his own track eventually.
Yeah, which I didn't like that, but anyway, he did not do Frank's track, of course not on this. But this set list was like 30 songs. I mean, this was an experience because this was the floating stage era of Kanye. Mm-hmm. I did not sit close enough where I was like near the stage, but I was like in the second area. Like there were like 4 areas, with the 4th one being like the upper deck, and I was in like the second, so I was like decently close. And I just remember like he came out, all the lights were like just fluorescent orange and red mix over his head, and he would get on and it was like the floating stage, and he was bending over and giving high fives and shit like during some of the tracks, and I was worried that people were going to try to pull him into the crowd. I was like, Kanye, you're leaning off that stage too much, man. But he was, thankfully, this was not one of the performances on the tour where he quit mid-show or he didn't show, which happened a lot, especially toward the end when he was doing the not the Bill Cosby innocent, the Trump stuff. So he kind of, and like the Jay-Z, fuck you, whatever, like stuff he was doing toward the end of the tour. So he wasn't on that wave yet, thank God, because I forget what I paid, but it was like, I want to say it was like $60 or something. So it wasn't cheap. It wasn't that expensive, I guess, but it wasn't cheap. But he opened with "The Father Stretched My Hands," which, I mean, of course, great song to open to. I remember, everybody yelled the "If Young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you." Everybody was ready for that part. No pun intended, because he did have that part in that set. He did like all the big ones. I remember, like "Famous," the big songs on Pablo.
Did everybody yell along to the first lines of "Famous"?
Oh, there was a lot of "I made that bitch famous." There was a lot of that. He did "I Don't Like," which was funny.
He always does. He keeps doing. He's been doing that for years. I mean, he loves that fucking song. Yeah, not a bad song. He did "Mercy." I remember. I want to say he did "Click," which I don't remember. He did "Paris," of course. Of course, he did "Paris." "Can't Tell Me Nothing," which gave me great enjoyment because I was screaming along. Not screaming, but I was really like. I don't want to be one of those people at concerts that like yells along the lyrics, but some songs like I definitely did. Like "Can't Tell Me Nothing," that first verse, which opens with one of my favorite Kanye lines ever. So it's just like, I had a dream I, died, went to heaven. When I woke, I spent that on a necklace. Like, yeah, that was. So I was definitely feeling that. And then he did like some of the classics, the Flashing Lights. I remember, I think he did Heartless. He did Heartless, yeah. People love Heartless, man. Yeah, they do.
People love that song.
People love 808s.
Yeah, people love 808s. And like the
one of the best I've heard recently, sorry to cut you off, but I want to publicize this, is if you haven't heard it, the 808s and Heartbreaks live at the Hollywood Bowl is a Kanye bootleg. He did 808s with like a full like 60-piece band and shit, and all the features except for Jeezy on Amazing, and it's so much better than the original album. Say You Will goes like 9 minutes long and has Caroline Shaw on it, and Your Story's like 12 minutes, and See You in My Nightmares is actually a good song now. And like Wayne he's there, but he doesn't really do his rap verse, but it's even better. Like, you've never heard it, you should hear it. It's fucking phenomenal.
I've taken some L's in my life. Quite a few. But That one, not going to the Hollywood Bowl show because I saw Kanye earlier that year, and I had no money. I saw him at the FYF Fest on that tour, and I had no money. I was out. I was flop, and I was like, I can't go. And now looking back, everyone says that's like that and Coachella 2011
Yeah.
are like his best gigs ever. And I could have gone. I totally could have gone. I go to the Hollywood Bowl like twice a year. So that to me is just absolutely. I didn't get to go. I had no money.
Could you have gone to Coachella 20? I mean, not that you would have wanted to, maybe.
I've never been to Coachella. I've been to Lollapalooza like 8 times.
Yeah.
But
I think one of the biggest L's I could have seen. One of the things I wanted to talk about too was like the show, your biggest regrets of shows you've missed. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll back to your Kanye thing, but I could have seen Odd Future in Philly like 2 days before they played Fallon.
Crazy, man.
100-person like club. It didn't even sell out. I got off work at the time. It was a late show. I could have fucking seen. Earl wasn't there. Earl was in Samoa, but the rest of them were there right before they went on Fallon and played Sandwiches.
I mean, at that time, were you like really into them, or were you kind of ambivalent?
Enough. I knew they were like. I mean, I wasn't super into them, but I knew enough. Like knew of them because they were putting out their shit for free on Tumblr, and I knew they were going, and I was just like, why not? I mean, whatever. I was exhausted. I just got off work. I didn't really care. And then, 3 days later, 2 or 3 days later, it's like all everybody is talking about. I felt like such a dumb fuck.
I will say,
I saw Odd Future 3 songs of their set at Pitchfork once, and it was fun because Tyler had a broken leg, so he was in like this cast, and he jumped in the crowd. But I actually left after 3 songs to go see Shabazz Palaces. So
how was that? Like
Shabazz Palaces?
Yeah.
Very minimal. That was Black Up. So it was right at the beginning of their career. They pretty much had like a laptop, and it was very minimal and spare. And if you're really into their lyricism, it was a great mix because you could hear everything really well. It was a very small stage with a small crowd. So it's very memorable.
That was when they were still good, which is no longer.
Yes, it was. So at least I could say that. I skipped out on Odd Future to see a Black Up show. Yeah. So, you could do worse.
Kanye did Runaway, I remember, which was... he didn't do the whole thing. He did I Love Kanye, which was very funny.
Yes!
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 People love... I mean, it doesn't surprise me, but he did Good Life into Stronger, which makes sense. He did Fade, which I was way happier about than most people at the show, and I was like, why are you not happy about this? He did Touch the Sky, which was still a very, definitely a fan favorite. And I don't really remember. He had some other Pablo tracks in there. He probably did, the Feedbacks and the whatever. I don't remember the other. And he closed the Ultralight Beam. Yeah.
Presumably he did the St. Pablo tour, right?
I don't remember him doing St. Pablo. It had been out for a few months at that point. I know he closed with Ultralight Beam. I know that. And I know he did the Powers and All the Lights, of course. I want to say he did the Black Skinheads and Blood on the Leaves too. I know he did Black Skinhead because he couldn't have not done Black Skinhead.
Our sets are very similar. I saw Kanye on Yeezus and in 2015, so it was like a little extended tour, basically.
It was really Life of Pablo. It was Life of Pablo, and then all the big songs from his other albums. That was really what it was.
When I last saw, he played. I think the most exciting thing from when I saw him on Yeezus, besides almost all those were the same songs except for the Pablo songs, but he played Streetlights. That was fucking great.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah,
that was great. And Coldest Winter.
He didn't play either of those.
Those are the most memorable for me. Other than that, it was almost the same. And then probably more deep cuts from Yeezus that he didn't play. But honestly, I don't he played on Minute.
Oh, that would I'm in it would go at a concert probably. I imagine.
Yeah.
He didn't play that for in my set.
Yeah, I don't think any. Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, it was mostly the set. All the stuff was the same. All the lights, street lights, and all the lights and flashing lights were all in the same set. That's why I was really excited about that. All the Lights songs by Kanye are fantastic. He's just good. Just put them
Yeah,
all together.
all of the lights had there was like a lot of strobe lights going on. I remember that, so that was pretty on the nose, but it was fun. He came out and he was wearing like very like because Kanye at that era how he was dressing was like very drapey clothes, very like
Yes.
a lot of earth tones. He still kind of dresses like that, but it was a lot of like earth tones, very like generic, looking. I mean, in color, in terms of color, like generic looking, like clothing, very drapey, very like beginning of like the dad vibes that he would lean into harder with Ye and stuff like that. Um, but he was amped. It was Kanye was a performer of that show, and the stage helped, and people on the floor were going nuts. I could see them. I wasn't on the floor, but one of my good friends actually was on the floor for Travis Scott, and he said it was one of his favorite experiences. Because that was the Astroworld tour was when Travis was doing like he had like the mini roller coaster things like
Mhm.
in his sets or whatever, and he would like invite fans to go on like the ride, and it was just like animatronic. Like, I don't know how the ride would work, but they would like go on this like little car and they would go through like a couple loops or whatever, and then you get off and somebody else could go on. Um,
Travis Scott is great live.
I mean, his sets have so much detail and shit in them. Like I've seen like on YouTube for the Astroworld tour, he spends a fuck ton of money on his live shows. Like I wonder how much he's actually making for that. Probably a ton. He doesn't need more money, but I just meant in general. Like
I saw him open for Kendrick, and he had a fucking phoenix with fire coming out of it. And he was riding on the fucking Phoenix and there's fire coming out, and there's pyrotechnics and shit's blowing up. And I'm like, this is an opening set. What the fuck?
It was
yeah.
like a rock concert.
Well, Travis. Well, I remember Travis. Sheck West opened for him when he came to my school, and Sheck West set was just like very minimal, a lot of like hype, just him running around, and then it was like Mo Bamba 3 times at the end, and like I mean that was a huge song at colleges. Oh my god, that song was everywhere. So that definitely all he needs to do is play that a couple times. But I remember my friend telling me, yeah, Sheck West didn't really have any props or anything, and Travis came out. It took like a half hour to set up his thing. So yeah, Travis Scott, lot of energy and effort into his live shows.
It's interesting though. Rappers have a reputation, or at least had a reputation until recently. I don't know. It still holds true for having like lazy live shows. Show up 3 hours late, have your boys on stage smoking, just bullshit freestyling. You just come out and play to a backing track. And I'm trying to think of other rap shows that I've seen. One of the best shows I've ever seen was Saul Williams, who I guess isn't really fair because
Yes,
it
I've seen him too. He's fucking great.
was phenomenal,
He's
dude.
so good.
I saw him on. He was touring Niggy Tardust, the Trent Reznor album,
Mm.
and it was a great show all around. The openers were good. There was first this band I could never find anything else out about called Fillmore Brown Academy. They were just like a funk group. Then Dragon Synth, who were like prog, like all black prog fucking punk band. They're really cool. They have like one album. They have an RYM page. You can check them out. They were good live. And then Saul fucking comes out. He's dressed like Black David Bowie. He climbs up a fucking speaker stack all the way up, touches the ceiling, and just like starts wailing, doing Convict Colony. He does every song you would expect. He like tears off the costume as he goes. He has such fucking energy. It was crazy. It was like I can't even do justice to how good he was. He like did songs off like he one of his encores was a deep cut off the Nine Inch Nails remix album that had no fucking gunshots from the computer. I never in a million years thought he was gonna play that. It was like an hour and 15 minutes. I could not recommend it highly. I mean, I don't think he's put out any really great music since Niggy Tardust, although his last album was surprisingly good. Um, he's put out something that was like hacker themed that was really mid 90s seeming. It's like really afraid of hackers like that anymore. But that show was so fucking like yeah, that was a great rap show. And when did you see him?
I saw him in 2013, I want to say. It was at Riot Fest, actually, which is a punk rock festival in Chicago. So him fitting in there was awkward, right? But he brought the energy, man. Like he knew, like this is a punk rock fest. I need to be loud. I need to be aggressive, and he brought that energy. His delivery of his lyricism is just insane. And like it just brings people in. Like, he was magnetic. Like, you could just tell, like, there were other stages you go to, but like everyone's just like, wow, like what the fuck is going on over here? And I was really excited to see him because he was such an outlier in this group. It was a wonderful. I love Riot Fest. Very cheap and very. There's like fucking 80 bands, and there a lot of deep ones, a lot of deep cuts, a lot of bands you wouldn't know, and a lot of things you can discover. And it was really cool that they brought Saul Williams in because he has that energy, even though he's not specifically punk rock. He fitting great. And so that was a really wonderful show. I would definitely want to see him at his own show after that. I'm just kind of waiting on an album of his to draw me in that I want to go. You know, these days I really go to shows based on whether or not I like the new album because that's what gets the most play. So that's kind of how I prioritize my money. Like with Carley, it was a slam dunk. You know, yeah. But some bands, like with Destroyer, if I hadn't liked the new Destroyer album, I might not have gone. But I love How We Met, so it was, you know.
I think my biggest W when it comes to a live show is, and it's nothing. I wasn't going to go to the show, but there's a festival that's at at Penn State every year. It's called Moving On, I believe, and it's like in the spring. It's toward the end of the semester. Everyone's like happy, having a good time, whatever. And they have like usually one semi-big act a year, and then like a bunch of other like smaller acts that it depends on what it is. And my freshman year, I want to say it might have been my sophomore year actually. Well, I think it was my sophomore year. It was right when Logic was like big. It was like post Suicide Hotline song. Mm-hmm. And I remember they had him as the headliner, and people were like excited about it. I mean, not everybody. I mean, I always made it clear that I hated Logic, and a couple of my friends didn't really like him either. But so we were debating going, but we were like, it's fucking Logic. We don't want to go to this shit. And then it thunderstormed the whole day, and this thing got canceled, and Logic never came.
That's your biggest W, is that you didn't have to see Logic?
That Logic never came to my school, so and people that I know didn't have to see Logic, so it's great.
I might as well tell the story of the time I saw Logic. It's great. This story's fucking great.
Is this with your 15-year-old cousin or something? Or?
My brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Who was how old was he at the time? I think he was 17 at the time, 16 or 17. But he came out to visit us, and I'm like, okay, we gotta go do something fun. I don't get to see him very often, and he's a sneakerhead, he's a hype beast. He's like every cliche white kid. And so I'm like, okay, Logic's here with Joey Badass, and I'm down. You know what? Fuck it. I've been wanting to see Joey. It's fine. I'll pay. Well, let's go. And so we threw down, got the money, right? And what can I say, man? Joey was great. Okay, Joey was great. I would recommend him. He's more of a pro than Logic at this point. It's just he has a better command of the stage. He handles the crowd better. Logic. Dude played fucking Mario Kart for 10 minutes. I'm not lying to you. He took out the Mario Kart. He's playing Mario Kart, whatever, Mario Kart Wii or whatever, Wii U, with some YouTuber for like fucking 10 minutes. Everything is stopped so that we could listen to Logic play Mario Kart. And you know what? That was the best part of the show. That was the best part of the show. We saw that guy too, the YouTuber. Like, we're just walking around, and to preface what happens later at this show, I'm going to say we have no phone service. You already know this is like a horror movie, right? No phone service. You already know something bad's going to happen. And so we're walking around. There's a YouTuber there, and my brother-in-law is like, "Oh man, it's so and so. Fuck. Oh man, fuck. This is the greatest, man." And I'm just like, what the fuck? How fucking old am I, man? And like I look around, and everyone's like 15, 16 years old. I look like I'm 15 or 16, but I'm like 26 at the time, So I already feel really fucking old. I'm probably one of the oldest people at this fucking show. The show ends, and it's fine, whatever. We all walk out. We can't get an Uber because there's no phone service. So we're stuck out about an hour from home in the middle of Los Angeles, somewhere on the outskirts of Los Angeles, a little bit further north, and it gets late, and we're waiting on this person that we called because eventually we got through, but it took like an hour, seriously, and we could not get this person. That we did not know where they were. My wife calls up and she's like, where the hell are you? Can I save you guys from your situation? I'm like, no, it'll be all right. It's gonna be all right. We're gonna get this Uber. And so I'm not fucking kidding you, man. Coyotes show up. There are fucking coyotes on the scene, and I'm like, okay, the pack is circling. And I looked this up. There are actually a lot of coyotes that run around over by the Greek Theater where we were. And so they're legit. They're not causing any trouble in the grand scheme of things. But man, it was getting late. There were fucking coyotes. There was like 5 of us left. And eventually our ride showed up. And it was those they were looking hungry, you know? And so we get in the car, and that's not even done with it. This person is fucked up. When they get a hold of us, they're fucked up. They have been missing the exit over and over again because they are either high on pills or something is wrong with this person because they can't fucking drive. They're going like 30 miles per hour in the middle of the night on the freeway. And I'm just like, holy fucking shit, let me out of this car.
That is an incredible. The pack is circling. That's got to be the slogan of the podcast right there.
The pack is. We got our money back. We got our money back for the Uber though. $30.
You really endanger yourself by going to Logic shows, just mentally, emotionally, physically.
I was going to say the worst part of the night was you had to hear the Suicide Hotline song.
We did, and it was very very long, and people were really into it, and everyone's crying, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
Did he
let
do
me out.
Before the song where he explained how important and emotional it was?
He
a bit.
I'll tell you another part of this. He played a new song, and on a piano. You know where this is going. Oh. And he started playing the fucking song on the piano, duh, 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 like in a minor key. And he's like, I'm so white. And I'm just like, oh my God, but I'm also black, biracial, whatever. And everyone's like, yeah, fuck. And I'm just like, holy shit, I think he missed every note. And and it preceded his rock album and his book where he tried to be a musician, which is a terrible idea. So we got a preview of whatever the fuck that album was called. I can't remember.
Supermarket.
So we got a preview of Supermarket. We were attacked by coyotes, and it took 3 fucking hours for our Uber to show up, and they didn't get us until like almost 1 a.m. It was what a night.
I mean, that's got to be the best story I've heard in a long time. I gotta tell you, endangering yourself by listening to Logic, man, bad shit happens. Like I'm telling you, that
karma.
The
karma.
Thunderstorms that happened all day during like that festival where Logic was supposed to play at my school, those weren't ordinary thunderstorms. Like I remember being inside the whole day because it was like torrential. Like nature doesn't like it when Logic comes to wherever you are, man. It's bad stuff going on.
Yeah, no, it's karma. You know, you don't play with the. You don't shake your fist at God, you know. Right, exactly. You're gonna get fucked up. So that was one of my biggest L's as a.
Well, it was a W for your brother-in-law. So
he had a wonderful time, and it was the end of the time he was there. It was very memorable.
Wasn't there also an experience with your brother-in-law where you drove around, you listened to Juice WRLD's first album?
Yes. No. Yeah. Yes. Juice WRLD. Yes. Juice WRLD. And Little Skies.
Little Skies.
Juice WRLD and Little Skies. You listen to both albums?
Lucy's, yes. But it went both ways because over the course of that trip, I also got him in the Dam, and I also forced him to listen to Saturation 2, and we got it from here. So it went both ways.
That was good. I mean, and that Juice WRLD album's got good tracks on it.
It starts good, and then it kind of. It's just too much, Like I think an EP of his best stuff, I'd probably really fucking like. It's just an album of like 50 minutes or whatever. What is his last album? Like 80 minutes long or something?
His last album was. I remember it being long. I also remember enjoying it, but I can enjoy Juice WRLD's aesthetic unironically because I think it like reminds me a lot of like I just always think of emo as a very inherently like melodramatic kind of like genre. Or emo rap being melodramatic doesn't really affect me that much. on his.
Much of that I can take in one sitting, though. I can accept that, but it's like
Right.
it's just so. It's a whole lot of a whole lot. And in Juice's case, like I can admit that he's good at it and he makes good songs in that style, but sitting and expecting me to listen to that for 78 minutes, come the fuck on, man. Like
No,
I feel like
that's definitely fair. And he was never like on his second album he was doing a lot more like pop rap, a lot more like it was there was some variation there. Not all of it was great variation, but it wasn't just he was doing 80 minutes of the same. Like the first album was more of it was a lot shorter, but it was more of like the same kind of like palette. But yeah, Juice's best work to me is the EP he dropped after X died, which is a lot better when you try to think about it, because he does have a line about Lil Peep, but when you just make the whole thing about Lil Peep instead of about X, it's a lot better in my opinion. But yeah, don't see Logic live.
No, don't. What was I gonna say? That was my biggest L. My biggest dub going to live shows, 2 of them. I've told you this story. I've told you about the time I saw Charlie at a 100-person venue. After I Like It came out, which was her biggest hit because she wrote that.
Yeah.
That was fucking huge, and that was just before Boom Clap, just completely.
I don't care.
Yeah.
And she played it with it. Yeah. Oh.
God damn it. This is the episode where I find out that people I like did songs I hate. First Carly with that Good Time song, and now Carly with I Love It. Oh, man. I hate that song.
I think that I'm gonna have the hot take. I think that song's aged pretty well. It's my
I haven't heard it in like 3 years.
There's a lot of
I forgot what it's called. I called it I Like It. I love it.
There's a lot of like bratty pop that's been coming out with it in the some of it which in the PC music camp in the last like couple years, and I think not that song's a precursor to it at all, but I just mean in that era of Charlie, I think that song is like, to me it's got a killer hook, and it's not her song. Like, so I don't really, I mean, Icona Pop was what, Never Seen or Heard From Again, but I think that song's from that era of pop music has aged pretty well, because what was that, 2012?
Yeah.
2013. So there's a lot of pop. There's a lot of pop. Like Lady Gaga shit from 2013 has not aged well. I think a song like this has. So it's my take of the pop.
It's very much a piece with her hook on Fancy, and I hate Fancy too. So it makes sense that I would not care for that.
Oh well, Fancy is that hook turned up to like 11. I think it's just like how bratty can we get, essentially.
She completely saves that song. It would be complete trash without Charlie on it.
Absolutely.
Nothing good. The other dub, I saw Kendrick on the Tim and Butterfly tour with a full band. That was the most expensive show though I've ever. I don't even call that a dub. I paid for that. That was like a $250 show.
Was it worth you think it was worth the price tag?
I mean, I still have the poster on my wall. It's like one of the proudest. Like, that show was fantastic. I mean, he played almost the entirety of one of the greatest albums of all time. What do you want? I mean, it's superb. I've seen Kendrick 6 times. I've seen Kendrick more than any other artist on almost every tour.
Do you see him on the Damn tour? Because I heard that was great.
With Travis Scott, yes.
Oh, was that Birds era Travis Scott?
Yes. That was when Pick of the Phone.
Oh yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that must have been, that's just nonstop hits the whole concert then, pretty much, because Damn had a bunch of hits.
I skipped out on the next tour because they did the one for Black Panther where it was just basically TDE. I skipped that.
My friend one of my friends saw. He said Schoolboy was the best.
I've seen Schoolboy with them once, and he was really fun. We have this thing in LA called the BET Experience, where it literally is the BET channel. They put on a festival for black artists, and they're whatever the fuck, they play celebrity basketball. I saw Justin Bieber and Snoop Dogg play basketball together at that. That's a story. And they do talks. I've seen Floyd Mayweather. I had a chance to throw something at him.
Did you hit him?
Good shit. Fuck that guy. And what it was a TDE showcase. And they just played like they went in a circle. Everyone played like Isaiah Rashad played like 2 songs. Soul did a couple.
Which Isaiah Rashad songs did he play? Because I can't imagine there's like a lot of his stuff is so low key that I can't even.
Yeah, I can't even picture him do live. Period.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't very live.
Like for the squad or something, what would he like free lunch maybe? Like what would he play that would get people really into it?
I don't even know if anyone even bothered to put that set list up because it was 2 songs.
Then Absol does the Book of Soul, and everybody's just depressed.
No, Absol did some weak shit off these days, probably.
What year is that? It was 2015.
Oh no, he would have done "Do What Thou Will." No.
And yeah, Schoolboy was great. He did Man of the Year.
Banger.
Collard Greens, obviously. You know, it was really fun. So one of them was a total bitch. I think it was Soul.
Oh,
he was a total bitch where he was like complaining about the crowd, and he's like, "I'm just gonna fucking like walk off the stage and you don't give a shit." And
it sounds like Absol.
I think it was Soul. And then Kendrick did a fairly. It was between Spin Butterfly and Good Kid. It was like right in that. It was almost before Spin Butterfly came out. So he did I.
Mm-hmm.
So that was out, and I think he might have done King Kunta. That was it. And he didn't really do a lot else. It was in that phase. It was like I think it was like it was right after Spin Butterfly came out. So it wasn't on the tour yet. Because Kunta Groove was a separate thing when they ended up doing those club shows and the small theater shows that were like 1,000 people or whatever. That was the full band. This was not with a full band. This was like, I don't know. It was kind of the cliche of like you have like someone pumping in the music, you know. It was still really fun just because it was cool to see everyone from TDE except SZA. I saw SZA later, but
SZA at that point barely existed in the mind of Top Dog. So
yeah.
That was 2 years before Control.
Album.
What'd you say?
You saw SZA. Was she touring her album? Was she doing like?
Yeah, she was doing Supermodel. She was doing what year was that? That was 2018.
Oh.
So yeah, it was a little bit after Control. That was Flog Gnaw with Tyler and Pusha T was the best part of that show. And Pusha T had maybe the best hip-hop show I've ever seen. I know it's weird to say, but really, when you take all of Push's hits in a row and nothing else, Clips and Push and all of Daytona in one set, it's tough, man. It's tough to beat that.
How much cocaine was present at the Pusha T set?
Probably none. It was a bunch of white people and Asians.
This is. You saw him at the Tyler Festival.
Yes. So it was a bunch of white people. Jaden Smith was playing nearby. You know.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Never mind.
I miss Playboy. I have not seen Playboy Carti.
Have you seen? There's a big.
I want to.
There's a big clip on YouTube of him doing a Die Lit show in Atlanta, and it ends with him he leaves the stage, like he goes into the crowd. He goes to the very, very top of the balcony of this big show. Mind you, he's performing songs, sort of. And by performing, I mean he's half doing them and half the crowd is going ape fucking shit. And he's on the top of this balcony hanging off the railing, and security's restraining him as he's like screaming the lyrics to like, I don't know, Foreign or something, like off of the railing.
Mileage.
And then like halfway through the songs, he'll just stop, and the crowd and the floor level, who's now turned and facing him, all of their phones pointed in his direction, will do the rest. And it is unreal, and it ends with Long Time and Shooter.
Oh.
And after which the crowd does like 70% of Shooter, and he ends up just he has to be restrained by security, and they leave. They like make him leave, and then the set's over.
Well, that's why it's punk rock, right? That's why they're always saying, yeah, this is the new punk rock, this phase of rap. He
was losing his mind. He was flailing his arms all over the place. I'll post in the Discord or something. It's an unreal set. It was like, I'm pretty sure it was like over an hour. He did a lot. He did like damn near every big song in his discography and a lot of deep cuts from Dial It and stuff. It was on the Dial It tour.
Oh man, yeah.
I would say that speaking of rap shows, one of my biggest L's was for sure the Smokers Club tour played 3 blocks down from my apartment in Philly when it was Method Man, Redman, Currency, and Wiz Khalifa, and I did not see it.
Oh,
sounds like a show that was made
for you. Yeah, that's your show. They put on that party for you. They thought you were gonna come through, man.
Also, Method Man and Red are supposed to be amazing live anyway. I've seen clips of Currency live. He's supposed to be great, and Wiz was also there. So I'm sure Wiz is fun live. But yeah, literally 3 blocks from my apartment, and I didn't find out about it until too late. Nas and Lauryn Hill was also at that same venue 3 blocks from my apartment, but they were charging way too much for it, and I wasn't sure.
Lauren wasn't even gonna show up anyway.
Robert Glasper was gonna show up and be like, "Yeah, she hasn't come here yet."
I saw her 30 minutes because she was supposed to play for an hour, and she showed up a fucking half hour late at a festival show, and she just showed up and did like, I don't know, X Factor,
right?
Zion,
like doo-wop, like
yeah, and then left. It was dope.
No, for her to even show up, the check had to be huge.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to show up to this because it's a 1,000-person venue in like fucking North Philly, and not really North Philly, but still in like not like a big venue in Philly at all. And she was the opener for Nas. Like I did not see this happening. Like she's not floating up for a headliner. Also, I didn't know what Nas was like. Nas did not have an album out at this point. I don't think it might have been around Life Is Good, but I didn't know what he was going to play. So, and they were charging like somewhere between $60 and $90, and I was just like not feeling it. One of my biggest W's was I think one of if not the only shows that I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Japanese noise artist Kenji Hino. I don't know if
I am not.
I'm not.
He's almost one of if not the only shows he ever played in the U.S. was in New York at Webster Hall with the Melvins. And they did a weird-ass show where it was backed up by 4 short films, and they did, like, improvisational noise shit, and it was, like, a one-time only thing, and I got to see that, and Sonic Youth sat 3 rows in front of me. That was pretty cool.
Cool.
I saw the only show ever played by Mike Patton and the Executioners as a band. And,
shit.
Yeah, on Mother's Day in 2006. And the opening band for that was a one-time only band with ISIS backing up Dialect. So it was ISIS and MC Dialect was like...
That's crazy. Yeah, I'd love to go to that.
One of the best shows I ever saw. At a festival, this was a festival that I only think ran one year called All Points West. I saw The Roots and Radiohead in the same night. The Roots only played 45 minutes, but it was still pretty cool.
I remember that festival. It only ran 1 year.
Yeah. And Radiohead was great. It was in Rainbows, but they played for like a solid 2 hours. Very annoying crowd. Big festival crowds kind of suck.
Oh, I saw them on that tour. I saw them I was a crazy show. I went with my mom. I bought tickets for her. She's a big Radiohead fan. And it was Mother's Day. And I don't know, it must have been maybe it was the same year. And it rained so fucking hard. There was about 2 inches of rain on the ground, and they went on with the show. It was like 50 degrees, and there's still pictures of Johnny like standing in this rain, like after the show, and just staring off. It's like an album cover. It's so fucking crazy, and it's crazy. What'd you say?
You say that it rained all night?
No. Well, no. You should have. That would have been fucking dope. It should have been. That would be fucking dope. They did like spinning plates. They did fake plastic trees. It was about 3 or 4 songs longer than normal. They really gave us a long show despite everything. But I've never been in weather that bad for a show before. It was really uncomfortable.
Our show was good. Tom was pretty drunk. They did most of it in Rainbows. A good chunk of OK Computer. That festival was cool too because I also saw Animal Collective. They were one of the and they did like 45 minutes. It was before Merriweather. I think they did 1 or 2 Merriweather songs, but it was very like structured, like not in a songy sort of way. It was like a noise collage.
Mm-hmm.
I misplaced my wife at this point. I couldn't find where I got her in the crowd. My phone died because I had a shitty burner phone at this point, and I was either out of minutes or dead. I don't remember at this point. So I spent a large part of the time trying to find my wife while she was freaked out by this weird hippie noise music that she was not really into at the time. So it wasn't very fun for her, but I enjoyed. And I think I probably took longer to find her more into music. So I hope she doesn't listen to this podcast because she was kind of upset that I took so long to find her. And met
That happened to me. That happened to me. I lost my wife at Lady Gaga at Lollapalooza, and she broke her foot, and I had to go track her down. Yeah.
How did she break her foot?
When you walk around all day at Lollapalooza, which is about a mile long, slowly but surely your foot breaks down. I think some tore. It was really bad, and yeah, I missed a lot of that incredible show. That was a great show. That was peak Gaga. Was peak.
Was that Fame Monster?
That was Fame Monster. That was peak. So I heard like 6 of the songs. I can say I saw Gaga. I can. I was there, but it was not my main focus. My main focus was getting a hold of someone. You cannot get phone service at those shows with like 80,000 people. It just does not fucking happen. So, oh well.
I can only imagine like the kind of set she would put on in that era anyway. Like it must be crazy.
It was great. It was what I saw of it was really fantastic. I still love Fame Monster. After that, I lose it. But the first are great. Yeah.
I'm just going to look at my concert list to see if I have any more W's. But do you want to talk about the first show you ever saw?
First show?
Yeah, first show you ever saw.
First show was U2, 2005, and U2 was great. But here's the problem. I didn't know this at the time, but when you have a situation where there's one band who's way fucking bigger than the other band, they fucked the other band over in terms of sound quality. So the opening band was Kings of Leon. All right, at the time, Kings of Leon hadn't sold out yet. They were still making like indie southern rock, right? They were called the Southern Strokes. They were like this slightly more rustic version of the Strokes. They weren't very good live, but they hadn't sold out yet, so they weren't terrible. They didn't have like Sex on Fire or anything.
Right.
But their sound quality was fucking awful. And for someone, that was the first band I ever saw live was Kings of Leon, technically, because they were the opener. And I was like, oh, I'm not going to enjoy this live music thing. Like, this is not my scene. I mean, it was a din. It was horrible. And then U2 came out and their sound was great. And it's just like, that's one thing you got to look out for. One thing I really don't like about live music is they fuck over those early bands. Like they have whatever, the intern do it. It's ugly. Very unfortunate because I actually like the first couple of Kings of Leon albums. Okay, they're not great, but they're whatever. They're fine. They're tolerable. But that was actually, those are 2 huge fucking bands. That's how I started my time seeing music. So you could do worse.
You know,
it's funny you should mention that because Kings of Leon was actually playing at All Points West opposite the Roots, and that's why I got such good seats for the Roots.
Yeah.
The Kings of Leon, this was right when the singles were starting to blow up. And I was like, I don't want to see that shit. They're horrible. Obviously, I mainly came to see the Roots. I love radio, but the Roots are like one of my priority bands. This was actually the tickets to that festival were what my wife got me as an anniversary present for our first anniversary. I didn't even know the festival was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the.
I would imagine in Philly you had your opportunities to see the Roots.
And I managed to miss all of them. I actually have a curse with the Roots. And I'd mentioned to her, and I didn't think she was paying attention. This is one of the moments when she got me this that I knew that I probably should keep her around for a long time when she got me this as a present. Because I mentioned I always had a curse, like dating back to high school. It would have been, I'll get to my first concert in a minute, it would have been my first what I would consider a real concert with friends to go see the Roots, except for my best friend at the time, somehow didn't know that he went to go see them in 2003 when The Tipping Point came out for a show that was $10 and didn't know that they were like one of my favorite bands, like period. And it's like, oh, I like them. I would have asked you to go. Like I got their tickets for $10. I managed to miss due to work circumstances or something pretty much every opportunity I had to see them, including the free shows they did every year at Penn's Landing, the Roots Picnic, except for the All Points West show. I have a curse with seeing them. But so my first show technically was at a state fair in 1993. Davy Jones played. I don't remember anything about it. My first concert that I went to go see was 1998, and it was Tori Amos and Alanis Morissette.
Ooh,
Wow.
for the time, that's sick.
I did not go to this by choice. My oldest sister was super obsessed with going with Tori Amos, and my mom didn't want her to go alone, so we all got dragged to go to this. And I did not like Tori Amos, but I heard a shit ton. I've since come around a little bit on Tori Amos, I will say, but I had to hear her music every fucking day from my sister because she would drive me around everywhere. And I heard Jagged Little Pill all the time, and I was just Jagged Little Pill. It's a good album, but I'd heard it a million fucking times. And keep in mind, this is 1998 Alanis Morissette. She's touring her new album that nobody liked. So we actually left. Tori Amos was opening. We left after her set. I couldn't really enjoy this because there were some drunk girls behind us who kept yelling for Tori Amos to get off the stage because they wanted to hear Alanis Morissette play "You Ought to Know."
Oh my god!
It was not a great first live music experience, and my mom was miserable the whole time because we didn't want to be there. It was not. My first actual live experience by choice was 2001. I saw Tool playing right after Lateralis, right after 9/11. So that was pretty cool. I did not know what that smell was the whole time. That weird smell that was
It's the smell of Tool fans.
Yeah.
That'll become important later on in the Patrique story. I would then see Tool 3 more times. The first concert I actually saw with my friends was Fish in 2003. And that was quite an experience. That was probably probably the best rock concert I've ever seen. Was either that, or if you want to stretch the definition of rock concert, I saw Medeski, Martin, and Wood with Annie Ballas Afrobeat Orchestra 2011, the day before my birthday in October. And that was a nut show. If you've ever heard of Annie Ballas, they're like this 11-piece Afrobeat band. They opened for Medeski, Martin, and Wood, and then the MMW did a second set with them on there. So it's like 15 pieces doing this crazy Afrobeat thing, which was just, and I was like,
fun, yeah.
So that was a really cool. It was another one of those things. I feel like a lot of my W's live are just like one-off experiences that you're not really going to get like ever a chance to ever see again. That's kind of what I value in a live music experience.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't see this in the Discord. I didn't get to answer you. I did not see the Pinata tour.
Oh.
I saw the Bandana tour. So I saw some of Pinata. They did play Thuggin' and High. Couple others, and then they played almost, a really big chunk of Bandana. So I saw that, and I think they played something from, because Madlib was spinning stuff all night, so he played something from the unreleased Mac Miller Madlib project, and it was fucking wonderful. I really want to hear more from that. That was like one of the best parts of the night.
I'm trying to think of songs from Bandana. I mean, that do well live, like. I'm sure Palmolive, like Education, like that.
Flat Tummy Tea.
Yeah.
Fucking banger. They played Crime Pays twice.
Hey, deserves it for sure.
Well, it's apparently Madlib's favorite song. That's why they did it. He's like, this is my favorite song. We're doing it again. I'm like, okay.
It's the most Madlib song on the album, for sure. Like, it's the most, like, if you ask somebody to say what sounds the most like Madlib on Bandana, I'd say Crime Pays.
Yeah.
Or Education kind of, too, but.
Well, that one doesn't feel that to me because I already heard that sample from Kanye.
Yeah.
That's a whole other debate. Who did it best?
Well, old-ass thing that Madlib used first with the Yasin from, like, 2011.
Yeah, that was the Bonjour sample, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I guess it's on either a DJ mix or a medicine show with the Yasin part, and then the other part, the Black Thought part and the Freddie part were like new. I'm pretty sure Madlib is doing it just because Kanye used the fucking sample on Bonjour. So he's like, I'm going to take my sample back.
I recommend the original track. It's really fantastic. I mean, it's actually an excellent piece. That artist is very talented. I was glad to have been introduced to that. That always happens. One of my favorite things about looking through the sampling which I always do for Madlib, I always want to see where he got his shit from, is there is two songs on Madlib that come from one sample.
Which one?
Fake Names and Palmolive come from the same song.
Yeah.
I could hear that. I could definitely
Yeah.
hear that. I should look through the bandana samples. People shit on bandana for not having as adventurous beats for Madlib. I don't really see that.
I disagree. Yeah, I disagree. I think they're more adventurous and they're not as polished and cinematic, but they're very experimental. Wait, half man, half cocaine? Give me a break. He's never done anything like that before.
Like
Right.
half cocaine and flat tummy tea. There are a few like two-part beats on there that are different than shit he's done in the past. He's experimenting with tempo. He's doing a lot of he's sampling a lot from a lot of left field prog rock stuff like he did in the past, but like he's doing it the song what he comes up with out of it, I feel like is different. Again, I feel like there are like one or two or songs on there like Crime Pays and maybe Palmolive and Education that sound like classic Madlib. And it also
Soul Right does too.
Soul Right too, yeah. And I agree it's not as polished as like something like Thuggin, where it's like really, really clean. Although I think Thuggin is probably the cleanest track he's ever made.
Yeah. Ever.
I think songs like you have the two sides of like Bandana, where like the massage seats kind of tracks, like that beat is very different from like it's a Madlib. You could see Madlib making that kind of beat, but I wouldn't call it an archetypal Madlib beat. And then Goddamn, which is just like a very smooth, and it's really focused on Freddie, but there's a lot of like tiny details in the background and stuff. Like that's what makes like each of those songs special.
I'll never forget hearing the fake names beat switch.
Oh.
I never forget that. I was like emotional. It got me emotional. I'm like, oh my god, amazing. It reminded me of Avalanche's Wildflower album, which I thought I would never hear something like that from Madlib. I'm just like, oh, I want more of that. More of that psychedelic soul.
Freddie's flow the whole time is just like butter smooth. Like he switches it just ever so slightly, but it manages to fit the whole different beat perfectly without sounding strained or forced. Like, Freddie's one of the goats. Like, I'm sorry.
No, for
like,
sure.
I've had enough of the Freddie Gibbs is not up there with the greats talk on our land.
I think he's in my top 20 ever. Anybody.
I said after Bandana that he was in my top 15. I don't know where he ranks now after this new one, but
yeah, we're recording this like in the midst of all these riots and shit going to hell, but also Alfredo. So
seriously, the year has been extraordinarily shitty, and the music has been extraordinarily great.
Really good. Just like 2016. Just like 2016.
Yeah, it's really the same shit.
It's really weird.
I feel like since 2015 we've been saying this about every year.
2016 was especially dope.
Yeah, especially for sure because of like all the the Tribe and the Bowie, all that.
Fucking Blonde.
Yeah.
It just keeps on going. What a wonderful year and a terrible year. Really.
2016 was Prince and Bowie died, right?
Yeah.
Trump got elected. Prince and Bowie died.
Yeah, within the span of like 2.5 months.
2020, we've had John Prine died. Who else? Obviously 100,000 people are dead, but I'm trying to think artist-wise who died.
Well, I mean,
God.
Pop Smoke was murdered. We had Scarface almost died. Thank God. That didn't happen.
Bill Withers died.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
Adam Schlesinger died of COVID. That fucking sucked.
That sucked.
That really sucked. He's very talented.
Wasn't there oh my gosh. There's a big one that I feel like I'm forgetting. I feel like I'm forgetting like a massive death that came out.
Oh, the guitarist from Mazzy Star died, Dave Roebuck. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Man, I never got to see Mazzy Star. It fucking sucks.
Yeah, that's a huge loss. I'd still see Hope Band do anything, but I'd see warm inventions. But I hate. We can still talk off the air after this if you guys want to. But just for the interest of wrapping the show, because I realize we've clocked in nearly 3 hours at this point.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say for the last two topics, worst show you've ever seen live, and then when this shit's all over with, who do you want to see live?
Okay. Let me think. I have a doc in front of me. I've seen over 300 bands live, so I got to check through this.
I'll say that I don't really have a shitty live experience in the sense that I've seen some small I've seen a bunch of college bands and local bands live, and they were fine. A lot of bar shows I've seen. nothing crazy. So I don't have like a terrible experience, but I will say that the experiences that I've dodged having to go to, I think are my biggest my biggest W's. Like the Logic thing, um, like my mom went to a I forget who she saw, but I think the Plain White Tees opened for it, and I was like,
Ugh.
thankful I didn't have to go to that.
You've
Um,
had a long storied history of avoiding terrible.
avoiding shit, I tell you.
You're like Matrix dodging horrible concerts.
Think of all the awful concerts you're missing with COVID going on.
I think who I want to see live. I think like Kendrick is a bucket list live performer. He's been one of my favorites for a while. I would love to see Freddie live. Um, in the non-rap world, I'd love to see Charlie live. I've watched a bunch of her sets multiple times in like the Pop 2 and the Charlie era, and those sets have been great. Trying to think of who else I would love to see live that I might not get to. Um, I mean, it'd be great to see an Outkast show ever, but that's never happening again.
I saw Outkast. I saw Outkast in 2015.
Like Andre's like my favorite rapper, right?
Kendrick, Kanye. You saw Kendrick 6 times. You saw Kendrick do Pimp a Butterfly. You saw Kanye.
Yeah.
You saw. Fuck you, man. I'm sick of your shit. Like,
yeah. Ask me who I want to see.
Yeah. Well, I guess who do you want to see?
I want to get my fucking Stereolab ticket back because it got fucking canceled. And they're never going to come back here because they're fucking French. They don't tour here. So that show got canceled. I was supposed to see them like last week. So that really pissed me off. I want to see Alex G really bad. And honestly, a lot of some of the artists I wanted to see, they're dead, man. I wanted to see Bowie more than anything. And nope. So that's never going to happen.
Yeah, another Prince. There's never going to be another great Prince show. You know what I mean? Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Prince, but it was years ago. It was like 2012 or something.
You ass.
Like 2012. It was years ago. Yeah.
That was a bad show.
It was wonderful. I saw him at the House of Blues at 3 a.m. For real.
We should have Mookit on here, Justin. We should have Mookit on here for a Prince episode.
We should. Dude, Mookit is so much fun. I've gotten fucked up with Mookit. I have a story with him.
Our Mookie episode's gonna be like 5 hours long.
How many?
I didn't see his penis, but his penis was near me, out of its pants,
Oh God.
100%. Worst show I ever saw. I have 2. I have most disappointing, which wasn't absolutely not the worst, but most disappointing. And the worst. Most disappointing was Sonic Youth in 2009, which I should be grateful for because I'm pretty sure it was one of their last tours. They were touring their last album, which was not my favorite album of theirs, but whatever. But I was going with my wife, who's not a huge Sonic Youth fan. She can't really get with Kim. My brother-in-law, who is, and his then girlfriend, who was a huge bitch and hates Sonic Youth. And she was just being a wet blanket the whole fucking time. And not even trying to get into the songs and making fun of all the Kim lyrics and making fun of all the old hipsters loudly.
Ooh.
It's a youth show. Of course you're going to have old hipsters. It was like, just ruined the experience for me. And it was the only time I ever saw Sonic Youth. And
what year was it?
2009.
Okay, yeah.
Thurston's really goofy on stage for a 50-year-old man. Funny to watch. Very tall, too. Like, I did not know how tall Thurston Moore is. The worst I ever saw, you guys are not going to know this band. It was a local festival. It was like folk and jam bands in 2010 or 11 called Ram Jam, which sounds really rednecky, but I swear it wasn't.
Yo, they're the ones, Ram Jam, they're the ones who do Black Betty, right? No. Yeah, that's Ram Jam.
Well, no, that's not the name of the band. That was the name of the festival. The band.
Oh,
the band was called Sweet Pangs. I actually knew this band. They were a local jam band with the dumbest name you've ever heard. I'm sorry, guys. It's not a very dumb. It's the most stereotypical jam band name you've ever heard. Yeah. But I knew the guys in the band. They were nice guys. They played a lot locally, and they were the headliners because they helped organize the festival. The festival itself was a lot of fun, they were the headliners. However, they had severe sound problems, and they decided this night would be the perfect night to cover in full Paul Simon's Graceland.
Okay. I'm listening.
Between the sound problems, the fact that they don't appear to have done more than listen to Paul Simon's Graceland once before doing this performance, and the fact that I fucking hate Paul Simon's Graceland, this was the worst live performance I had ever seen. I was not happy with this. And also, it was like really, really hot. I was really dehydrated. I've been drinking all day. And my ride bailed on me because this was another thing about, it was a friend having girlfriend trouble, and they decided to split without informing me because they were trying to ditch somebody, and I had to find my own ride home in a field full of fucking drunken stone hippies. So that was also added to the experience. I did find my way home eventually, but to the soundtrack of a bunch of fucked up people badly covering Paul Simon stealing music from African people. So yeah, that was not my favorite concert experience.
I don't think I have anything to add to my other worst concert experience. I already said about the wolves, the coyotes. I don't think anything's beaten that. I know that there were some bands that were really I saw this band called Crocodiles, who are pretty decent, post-punk, with a friend of mine and my wife. We went out and just hung out. We saw this band. And the opening acts were fucking terrible. Like, unbelievably awful. Like, not even avant-garde rock music, but just not talented rock music that pretended it was avant-garde. And the band was Girl Tears was the name of the band, which is a terrible name.
Terrible fucking name.
Girl Tears, fucking terrible band, terrible name. And then later in the show, the only thing that really was good about that show is the fact that I got hit with a beer. I got hit with a beer. Like this, how rock stars, they get like really into it. Like they're like, oh, okay, I'm a fucking rock star now. I'm gonna be all punk rock and just be a fucking asshole. Let's throw a beer at a guy. So I got hit with the lead singer's beer, and I went and talked to them after the show, and I went they're like signing shit, and then they're one of those like, oh look at us, we're so mysterious punk rock dudes. So I go over and I take the guitar picks. I got the guitar pick from the guitarist. I ask him to sign it, and I tell him what happened. And he like almost starts crying. He's like so apologetic. He's like, he gets like that. I'm really. So he signed it. I still have the pick. One of the funniest stories I had is him apologizing about the rock star moment and just the man behind the curtain. It was so fucking funny. It would have been funnier if it was from the lead singer himself, but it was almost as funny that it was the guitar player who was like, "Oh no, I'm sorry. It's just that happens sometimes," and I'm just, oh my god, dude. It's I miss live music, but there are a lot of posers and there are a lot of idiots, and I don't miss that. But I do love my pick. I cherish it forever. That was a fucking funny show. But the opening bands were fucking awful. Unbelievably bad. And so I will always remember that. They're just the worst. Do not see Girl Tears live. They're absolute shit. Apparently they have a slot on here on Setlist FM, so they must at least have some kind of following. They're not nobody.
I actually want to add to my W's list real quick. That reminded me, I don't know why, that one of my W's was I saw Guar before Odorous died. That was one of the most fun I've ever been to. I didn't listen to my friend's advice and did not leave my glasses in his car, and they got destroyed in the mosh pit because the entire floor becomes a mosh pit because it's Guar. But it was fun as shit, and I would not take that experience for anything. And I would like to amend my worst concert experience because those guys were not in their right heads, and the rest of the festival was fine, and there was other shit going on, and the Sonic Youth thing was not the band's fault necessarily or at all. So I'm going to say the worst concert I ever went to was Family Values 2006, because I went to the Family Values Festival in 2006 because it was only $10 and Deftones were playing, and Deftones were great. But the band before Deftones was Stone Sour, which, if you're not familiar with, is the guy from Slipknot's serious side project band where he does singer-songwritery shit. It's worse than that sounds. And he did spiel between every song where he got political and yelled at George. And he wore a suit.
Oh, my God.
That's the worst concert I've ever seen. As far as what I want to see when this shit's over with, right now I'm looking at. I bought a Guided by Voices shirt recently, and it came with a bumper sticker that says 2020 Guided by Voices. I don't put bumper stickers on my car, but that reminds me. Number one band I want to see by far is Guided by Voices. I really hope I do it because I never tell when Bob's going to break up the band. Yo La Tango, I've always wanted to see them. They've toured around here several times. I always managed to miss them. Autechre, I always pronounce that wrong. They almost never toured the U.S., so I probably missed my opportunity. Mm-hmm. One of my big calls is that they played Philly a few years ago. I lived up here, but I still could have taken a train. I didn't even know about the show. I only found out about it when it came out in the most recent live releases. I fucking miss live music too. It's been way too long. I'm sad as fuck that my last live show was a Dave Matthews concert. I need to rectify that, and so hopefully that we get out of this, at least one aspect of our current dystopian hellscape. But and if we do, we'll be here finding excuses to shit on Logic, no matter what the topic is.
It's my trademark. Every single one of my episodes has to come back. I don't know. It just happens.
You guys are you're just fated to be mortal enemies somehow. So until then, forevermore, we'll finding excuses to shit on Logic. We are living off borrowed time. See you next time.